The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hello and welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You. I am your host, Melanie Young, and we are in the last month of 2025, December 17th. I bet everybody's busy wrapping up their year and planning for their holidays. I know I am. And I love ending every year and starting every year with something that will inspire you. It's been a tough year for a lot of people. The news has been, and a lot of people are trying to wrap their heads around lots of news that is not good, but I'm here to give you some great news that there is hope, and our biggest investment should be in young people because they are our future. And no one does a better job of that, or there are many, but a great shining example is the Gloria Barron Prize for Young Heroes. I love doing a show every year to spotlight the recipients of the Gloria Barron Prize for Young Heroes because this program annually honors 25 outstanding young leaders. We're talking about people who are still in high school, even sometimes grammar school, who have made a significant positive impact on people, their communities, and their environment. 15 of the top winners each received $10,000 to support their service work or higher education. The Gloria Barron Prize was named for an author of children's books who was an environmentalist. Her son has carried on this legacy. It is an annual prize. And if you have interest in entering, or you have a son or daughter who would like more information, I'm going to give you that now before we introduce their guests in a short video. The website is www.barronprize, BARRON prize.org. We're going to have two of the recipients on, Vivian Liu, age 16 of Katy, Texas, who is founder of Origami for Good, and Anisha Doot, age 16 at the time of winning, they may be older now, Portland, Oregon, who is an environmentalist who's created a lot of interesting programs to help conserve the environment, harvest seafood, and fight insecurity. We're going to have them talk about their programs and their stories. But first, I want you to see a short video about the Barron Prize so you understand why this is a great program.
The Gloria Barron Prize for Young Heroes celebrates 25 years of recognizing young people who are changing the world. Here are some examples of our most recent winners. Inventing a catalyst to improve bionic leaf technology, protecting freshwater ecosystems, including the Tennessee River, using her camera to raise money for multiple causes, discovering new personalized cancer treatments that precisely target cancer genes, planting native seeds and seedlings to increase biodiversity, fostering youth stewardship through tree planting initiatives, recycling to fund college tuition for youth in Hawaii.
We need young heroes now more than ever. Young people can save the world, but they need role models. That's why the Barron Prize is so important.
If you or someone you know is making a difference, apply today by going to barronprize.org. That's barronprize.org.
Well, how moving is that? First of all, it's a great video. And second, to see and hear the great recently departed Jane Goodall, one of the greatest conservationists in history, we lost in 2025. Talk about how great the Barron Prize is. It's just inspiring. But we're going to hear from two winners who are going to really drive it home. Okay. So our first is, as I said, her name is Vivian Liu. She founded Origami for Good. Now, Vivian's from Katy, Texas, so that's a small town in a big state. She's, I think, still age 16. And this is a global nonprofit that has inspired more than 7,000 volunteers to create over, are you ready for this? 825,000 pieces of origami for people in hospitals, nursing homes, children's centers around the world. Vivian, welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I used to do origami as a little girl. I was telling you before the show, my parents went to Japan and they traveled a lot. My whole family did in Asia. And so origami has always fascinated me. First, for those who may not be familiar with the significance of origami and how you were inspired, give us a little backstory about your family and how origami was part of your growing up.
So, with origami, I was first introduced and inspired by my grandmother who taught me origami when I was very, very young. And as I grew older, I realized how something as simple as like this folded piece of origami could bring a lot of comfort, connection, and joy, especially to those people who felt isolated. And that realization, paired with seeing a lot of mental health struggles and loneliness really amplified during the pandemic, pushed me to turn this small tradition, which was in my family and was kind of just a hobby that I had, into a global act of care and service that volunteers that we have can do.
Wow, that's incredible. And origami's just a wonderful thing to do with your hand. You can create little animals. I saw a show, a Houston TV segment, and there were so many. I wish we had it. But how did you get started? I mean, it's a great idea, but how to take it from an idea to an impactive movement?
So I started Origami for Good locally. So I would just give out origami to my friends. And then I had this idea like, what if we donate this to like senior homes, centers, and like hospitals around the world? And then I started doing that. I started like emailing like a lot of facilities and asking if I could donate my handmade origami with messages inside. And
Mhm.
then I have this friend from Michigan, and she's actually the co-founder of Origami for Good. And we had this idea, what if we expanded to chapters and allowed people from all around the US and outside of the US to create their own little Origami for Good clubs. And then in
Mhm.
those clubs, volunteers could like fold origami together, which is such a great bonding activity as well. And then with that, they can send their made origami to a bunch of facilities to help spread joy. And that's just kind of how it spread. And the way that we blew up was primarily through social media. I was very consistent with posting, and through that, we've garnered over 40,000 Instagram followers. And I think that's where most of the growth came from.
I could probably use your help boosting my Instagram, to be honest. 200 chapters serving 50 countries. Okay, let's talk about countries, including Japan, India, United States. And you also have built corporate partnerships. Let's talk about that because let me tell you, I know how to build corporate partnerships. I've done it as a profession, but are you still 16? Or are you 17?
I'm still 16. My
Okay,
birthday
so
is in April.
at 16, I was just working on my driver's license. How did you know to do that? How did you know that you can get power through partnership?
I think it's always important to have like a strong support system. And so me and my co-founder, we were trying to look for ways that we could secure fundraising and stuff. So we did a lot of like emailing and just like straight up cold emailing. And through that, we were able to discover a lot of partnership programs that were possible through Panda Express and Krispy Kreme, which are some of the companies that we partnered with. And then through that, we were able to do, I think there's a partnership called like Dozens for I forgot what like it was called, but we were able to allow our volunteers to buy donuts as well, and then a portion of the money would go towards our organization.
That's great. I like Krispy Kreme. They make great, it's all great. So you've done some TED Talks about this program. Can you give me an example of what you've been talking about and how you're taking this further to let people know that origami for good is a great thing?
Yeah, so through my TED Talk, I was able to talk about those like small moments and how it's really just important to start because I remember when I started this organization my freshman year, if I was being completely honest with myself, I wasn't really sure exactly what I was doing. And I just really emphasized the importance of starting because you really can never know what happened. Like if I predicted our organization would be this big, that I could never been have predicted my freshman year. So I just really emphasize the importance of like if you have an idea, just go for it because the worst that can happen is that like it doesn't go anywhere, but that doesn't harm you at all. Like the worst you can do is try. And I really just emphasize that throughout my talk.
How did you deal with rejection? I can't imagine everybody said yes because you're 16 and I mean, it's hard enough trying to
Yeah.
get work at 21, 22 when you're out of college. So how did you deal with that?
So we faced a lot of rejection initially when we had our chapter idea. Like we started reaching out to a lot of schools, and there was a lot of like school principals who were like kind of skeptical about the idea, like, why are you trying to expand like your organization? Like, what does that really do for us? And we had to really practice like pitching ourselves, and also we had to really like we realized like, oh, we really need to create like a better system for this, and then through that we're able to create our chapter system. And we also have a team of a lot of like youth executives that also work with us. It's not just me and my co-founder. Like, we have a
Mhm.
team that works for our marketing, we have a team that works for our volunteer department, and then our chapter department, and also social media as well. So all of our departments kind of just come together, and through that we're able to establish like a standing and consistent nonprofit.
Now, Vivian, you what school are you attending? Give your alma mater, your school, a shout out,
Um,
and tell me how you juggle this with your schools and your studies.
Yeah, so currently I attend the Texas Academy Math and Science, which is a pre-college program at the University of North Texas. So I just take university classes full time.
Wow.
And I remember at my old school, it was actually harder to juggle because I had to go to school like full time. I had to go to school like 6 a.m. in the morning and then come home at like 4 p.m. because I also had like orchestra rehearsals because I also play an instrument. So I was busy all the time. But I think joining this pre-college program at the University of North Texas, because college classes are block scheduled, so I don't have to go to school full time. So I have a lot of extra time for myself to work on origami for good. And I think that really like a way to make sure that all the tasks get done is that I try to plan things out, and I make sure that my deadlines are all known, and I keep a lot of sticky notes around my computer, around my desk, and I think that helps a lot as well.
Wow. Long days. I forgot student life is long days. So how is your
Yeah.
family helping and supporting you, and what do they say about what you're doing?
Yeah, my dad is actually very helpful, and he always
Mhm,
helps me, like, if I have, like, a question, because I remember when I was initially trying to establish the 501(c)(3) status for tax
mhm.
exemption and also, like, the bank account information and stuff. I asked him a lot of questions on that, and he was very helpful. So I really love my family, and I'm really glad that they're able to support the work that I do.
Is your grandmother still with us?
Yeah, she is still with me, and she lives in China though, but,
Mhm.
she always loves to hear updates about how Origami for Good is doing, and every time, like, there's, like, a radio session or TV show that I go on, she's always the first to be watching it.
Oh, she must be so, so proud, Vivian. So do you have a mentor that has been helping you?
A lot of my teachers at my school are very supportive as well. Obviously, I
Mhm.
started Origami for Good locally, so
Right.
there's a lot of teachers that like were with me when I first started, like my freshman year, and I was just
Mhm,
hosting like origami folding workshops at my old school. And
mhm,
those teachers are always very helpful. And then also a lot of the partnerships that we do, I develop a lot of good relationships with like publishers, and then also with just school facilities and facility like people who work at a lot of the
mhm.
facilities that we're partnered with, and they love sending us emails with updates on how it's going, and it just makes me feel so good, and it feels like we're actually making an impact, which is so important.
Well, it's just fantastic. Now you are the recipient of $10,000. How are you gonna use that money? Is that gonna be for your education or for services, or have you even thought about it yet?
I've really thought about this actually. The first thing that I did when I even heard that I won, I was like, "How will I, like, distribute $10,000? It's such a huge
A lot
sum
of
of
money.
money."
Mhm,
Yeah, so we decided that it would be reinvested, most of the money would be reinvested directly into expanding access by covering materials for under-resourced chapters. A lot of our chapters don't have the resources to like buy all of their origami supplies, so we
mhm.
do want to provide funding for that. And then also supporting international shipping and building stronger digital infrastructure so students anywhere can start and run chapters more easily and sustainably. And then also, I believe like a portion of the money I also do want to go into my college fund because college can be so expensive.
Oh, very. So I'm curious, you mentioned supplies. With origami, do you have to use certain types of paper?
Really, no, you do not have to use certain types of paper.
Okay.
There are paper that's like specific for
Yeah.
origami, those like square shaped colored sheets, but honestly, printer paper, any paper is fine, and you can fold a lot of different shapes and animals and stuff like that.
So it's a great way for anyone can get started with origami. You can take a
For sure.
tutorial, for example, right?
Yes, for sure.
And your website is origamiforgood.org or
Org.
.com? Org,
.org.
okay. Okay, great. And what's your social media profile?
Yeah, our Instagram is at origami.forgood.
Mhm.
And yeah.
All right, Vivian, I want you to hang on because I'm going to introduce the second recipient, and then we're going to have a little repartee between everybody, okay? So we've been talking with Vivian Liu, who is one of 2 Barron Prize winners that I'm interviewing today. Each has won $10,000 to invest in their program or future education. They're both 16 years old. Vivian Liu, founder of Origami for Good, is from Katy, Texas. She's going to hang on, but I want to bring on our second winner, Anisha Dude. As I said, age 16. She's from Portland, Oregon. She is an environmentalist who has created a couple of initiatives to help harness. It's interesting. She's been using seafood and kelp. I happen to love eating it, so I can't wait to talk to her about it. She created the Smart Carbon Recycling Innovation, which I'm going to ask her to explain because this is really about environmental issues, and she's more knowledgeable than me. She created a really interesting project, formulate Kelp Nutri Boost, which is a bio fertilizer. And she has created through self-teaching coding, something that is called Earth, environmentally aware revolutionary technique for harvesting. Wow. So Anisha, do welcome to Fearless Fabulous You.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. Wow. So we're going to go from Origami from Good, which I can, because I get origami, to something that is so complex to me, but so important for our future, which is being an environmental advocate and activist and coming up with technology and existing resources to create new resources to help fight with farming, fighting pollution, dealing with food insecurity, things that are so important. So, Anisha, first of all, you were 16. What made you want to go in this direction to use technology, including AI, and really get into the environmental aspect of things?
Yeah, so when I was around 11 years old, I kept hearing debates in the news about whether climate change was even real. And even at that age, it felt really strange that people were actually debating science. So instead of just accepting what I heard, I decided to test it for myself. So it all started with a simple experiment using 2 2-liter bottles, one filled with carbon dioxide and one filled with just oxygen. And I basically tracked how their temperature changed and the rate of heating. And seeing the CO2 bottle heat up so much faster and stay hotter made the reality of climate change, it felt really real. And it basically proved that climate change is in fact real. And that experience really sparked my curiosity and led me to research climate science more deeply as I then became older. And over time, I realized that understanding the problem wasn't just enough. Just researching wasn't actually going to make an impact. So I wanted to be part of the actual solution. So when researching climate solutions, I discovered kelp seaweed. And it's really magical because it has an ability of not only absorbing large amounts of CO2, but also improving soil health and crop yields. And this connection between climate mitigation and food insecurity really inspired me. And that discovery really became the foundation for my work and ultimately motivated me to start my initiative.
So you live in Oregon, and the whole West Coast is being impacted terribly by climate change. We don't call it global warming. We call it climate change because it could be anything. I live in Louisiana. I live in a hurricane belt. So I know about climate change. How did you go about, you have created technologies, you've created a formulation that is a low cost biofertilizer. How did you go about researching and developing your products?
So basically, I would just research online. After doing that initial experiment, it really sparked my curiosity and I wanted to continue my research in that. So I just researched more about climate change so that I could gain more information about it. And then at one point, I basically realized that just researching about it wasn't actually going to make a difference. Anyone could do that. I wanted to be part of the actual solution and making an actual difference. And that's when I started researching ways that we could actually mitigate climate change. And I wanted to find a thing that would actually be low cost, available to everyone, be super abundant. And that's when I came across kelp seaweeds, which is you can really find it anywhere. Like if you just go out to the coast, like it would be like washed up. And many people don't actually know this, but like it has this amazing ability of like sequestering carbon from the atmosphere
Hmm.
into the oceans. And this is not super well known, but it's super important. And they grow super abundantly as well. So like there's no like problem of like it running out or anything. So that's how all of this kind of started. And then I just took that forward. I ended up making a kelp seaweed based fertilizer called Kelp NutriBoost, which is
Hmm.
low cost, organic, and kelp seaweed based, and it supports sustainable agriculture. I also created Earth AI, which is a crop recommendation machine learning model that makes farming a lot easier, a lot better, especially for communities that don't have access to a lot of resources and the soil may not be super fertile. So both of those like working together will really like make a difference.
It's interesting. I more have a food and beverage background and nutrition, and kelp seaweed is, yes, widely available, kind of like kudzu in the South, and it's very nutritious. I went to a specialty food association show with food innovations. In fact, the food innovations um, center is in Oregon, and they're doing a lot with seaweed and sea nutrients because it's also nutrient dense to help with finding ways to deliver nutritious, low cost, nutritious products to fight insecurity. You're doing this, obviously, the soils are, and the water are greatly impacted by industrial waste and human waste. Something I think was interesting that caught my eye with Kelp NutriBoost is that it's a carbon rich biochar. You make it from you also make it include plastic waste and sewage plant biosolids. Okay, so I got the kelp part, but you're also using waste. So how does that work? Because we all know plastic is just prevalent in the waters right now.
Yeah, so last summer I did this research internship with a professor at the University of British Columbia, and we basically researched this chemical process called microwave catalytic pyrolysis, and it converts biosolids and plastic waste into biochar and biofuel. And at that time, my research mainly focused on biofuel, which is basically a lot. It's a lot more like greener. It's less carbon rich than regular fossil fuels. And after that, that kind of introduced me to biochar, which is another byproduct of this process. And
Mhm.
biochar is super carbon rich and amazing for the soil. And after I kind of discovered this, like I thought this really connected with my project. So I kind of tested it, and when combined with the Kelp NutriBoost fertilizer that I created, its efficiency increases to up to 80%. So that's kind of how that all comes together. And how all of it comes together is basically like the biochar and Kelp NutriBoost fertilizer is first applied into the ground, and then the farmers or whoever's like planting can like monitor it for a bit. And based off of that, like you use the crop recommendation machine learning model to select the best crop to grow. And then
Mhm.
however like the plant is doing, like you can like increase or decrease the amount of Kelp NutriBoost fertilizer that's put into the ground. So it kind of all comes together as like one like innovation.
Well, I'm curious, how are you getting this message out to the farmers? Are you targeting small farmers, large? I mean, farming is a broad term. It's a big industry, a broad term, but there's small farmers, there's large farmers. How are you getting the word out to them and to this major community that this is a great option? And how are you scaling it?
Yeah, so I'm targeting like communities who don't have a lot of access to resources, and
Mhm.
especially small farmers who may also not have that many access to a lot of resources. And especially in like parts like of the world that don't have like the best soil quality, like soil may have been like super degraded, because like the Kelp NutriBoost fertilizer and biochar can really help with that problem.
Mhm.
And I'm actually in the process of patenting my fertilizer. So that's
Mhm.
how I'm planning on scaling it. I want to get it into like different stores and shops and on the shelves so that many people can access it, because I think it can make a huge change, because not only is it like low cost, it's only $14 per gallon compared
Wow.
to like the $50 plus chemical fertilizers that you find in like stores. It's also super healthy, doesn't have any added chemicals or anything. So I think it could be a really great option and make a huge difference.
Wow. That's fairly low cost. And you can create partnerships like Vivian did. I think going toward partnerships is a good way. Just don't give up equity. Who's your mentor on this? Who's working with you on this? And do you have a mentor?
So it kind of all started with so I was part of the 3M Young Scientist Challenge, and I had this idea, and my mentor during that competition was
Mhm.
Dr. Rohit Gupta, and he really helped like start my project. He gave me the resources that I need, connected me with people that could really help like take my project further and make it real, because it all started with just an idea. And after that, like after the competition was over, I kept going with this project. I kept expanding it. And throughout the project, like I have met many mentors, like for example, the professor at the University of British Columbia. She helped like introduce me to part of my project, which was biochar. But overall, this was a pretty independent project. I actually tested the fertilizer in my backyard. I didn't test in labs or anything. So this project was pretty independent, but my parents have also been a really big part and like really supported me throughout the entire project, because they really gave me the like access to resources and stuff that I needed. But yeah, most of this has been like independent and at my house.
Wow. So where do you go to school and how do you juggle this project with your studies?
I currently attend Westview High School in Portland, Oregon,
Mhm.
and I like I kind of do this like out of school. Like I have, unlike Vivian, like I have like a normal like school schedule. I have to be there
Mhm.
from like the morning to like 4 p.m. So it is kind of hard, because like I need to like juggle schoolwork and the project as well. But after school, like I take a lot of my time to work on this project and take it further. I'm actually in the process of creating a nonprofit right now. And as part of that nonprofit, like I'm also going to elementary schools talking about climate change, climate education, which isn't really talked about. I'm also
Mhm.
taking time to fundraise for local food banks.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is a lot to
Wow.
juggle, but like I think it is working out, and I'm able to like kind of split my time between schoolwork and the project.
So what in doing this, like Vivian talked about how origami has been really great for dealing with social isolation. Social isolation is a serious problem in the United States right now and elsewhere, not just here, but we're focused, which is impacting the mental health. And COVID did not help. And I don't think people have healed. And, you know, it gets worse. We all know that that is a big problem. Climate change, similarly, is a major problem and challenge in the United States, particularly with people who don't believe it actually exists, versus people who do. I know it does. We all know it does. And we all know that unless something is done, it's going to get worse. Same with social isolation. What in terms of, and I'm going to open this up. So, Anisha, as you dove into this, what were some of the what surprised you most about your findings that you were like, wow, I had no idea?
So the thing that like surprised me the most was when I came across kelp seaweeds, because I genuinely like did not know that it had the ability of sequestering carbon into the ocean. And I don't think
Wow.
many people are aware of this property either, because we just see it washed up on beaches and we're like, oh my God, like I want to stay away from it. At least that was how it was for me. Like it doesn't look the most appealing and you kind of just want to stay away from it. But it actually has these like super magical like abilities. And I wasn't aware of this at all. And when I came across it, like I was super surprised. I was also surprised with the amount of people who aren't aware that climate change is in fact real. Many people don't think it is real, and like scientists predict that like if we don't go back to like net zero by 2050, like there is no going back. Like it's just going to
Mm-mm,
continue to get worse, and we won't be able to do anything about it. So I think it
mm-mm.
is super important to bring awareness to climate change. But yeah, those are the two things that surprised me the most.
It's interesting. I travel a lot. In my work in the wine business, and the vineyards are all being, it's all agriculture and everybody's being impacted. And it's not just temperature, it's also the condition of the soil, it's the litter, the garbage I have seen. I won't point out which. I'm shocked that there are people in the world that will talk the talk about climate change and then toss all their litter in a mountain, that you're like, how did this happen? Or they'll, still use plastic straws. They'll go into the water and reef with bad, sunscreen that hurts the reefs. I mean, I've seen so much of this, and I scuba, I go to Hawaii a lot, and I see the ocean reefs are a mess. And it's interesting, kelp. A lot of people just think that's all like ocean trash. It's natural occurring substance in the ocean, and the fact that you're doing something with it to regenerate it, because the term is regenerative, is amazing, just amazing, really incredible. So do you have a website or social media to share with my listeners and viewers?
I don't have a website as of now, but if you want to like follow my work and ongoing projects, you can follow my Instagram, which is at Anisha Duth. But yeah.
Okay. So that's Anisha Duth. And just so everybody knows, well, it's on the screen. Your name is on the screen, so you can see the spelling. Okay, I'm going to open this up a little bit between you, with all of your little repartee. You're both looking at college. You know that college is very expensive now. I know you're probably thinking about it. You haven't applied. And we'll start with Vivian. What would you like? What are you planning to study? Even though that can always change. And what would you like to do in the future if you have any idea yet? Vivian, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so right now at the University of North Texas, I'm a mechanical engineering track, so I take mechanical engineering classes, but I also want to use engineering for social work as well, like for Origami for Good. So I'm really passionate about youth and service and everyone being a volunteer and doing good for the world. So I definitely want to continue my social work as well and grow Origami for Good alongside my studies. And I've thought about this a lot, and I have a lot of like ideas of how I want to pass on Origami for Good, because when I do get to college, I do realize that I will get busier. So I have a lot of people in mind that I know will take good care of Origami for Good when I do go to college.
That's great. Okay, Anisha, what about you?
Yeah, so after graduation, I plan to pursue a degree in engineering. That's how it is as of now. And my goal is to apply technology and research to solve environmental and climate related challenges. I definitely want to take my project even further and make it a lot bigger. I plan on like making my nonprofit official as well in the future, alongside like patenting my fertilizer and actually getting it to the people who could really use it, alongside the Earth AI machine learning model. So yeah, that's my plan for the future.
Okay, so I'm gonna alternate starting so that the second answer has, because whoever gets the first question doesn't get as much time to think about the answer as the next person. So Anisha, what woman, entrepreneur or social impact, whatever, who, living or dead, female, has inspired you the most, and why?
I would say Greta Thunberg, because she is super related to climate change. Like she has really brought awareness to climate change as well. And she shows how like one person's curiosity and conviction can really grow into a global movement. And she began with just like asking questions and like taking small consistent action, but her like impact that she has made on the entire world has really like demonstrated the power of like persistence and advocacy and leadership. And I think I respect her a lot.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing. Okay, Vivian, who and a woman, living or dead, entrepreneur, social impact, philanthropist, inspires you, and why?
I really respect Princess Diana because she showed up physically when a lot of people stayed kind of distant. So she shook hands with like AIDS patients when people were afraid to touch them and walk through active landmine fields to force global attention. And I really just admire the way she used her fame and platform responsibly and to showcase causes that need to be seen. And I think that trait is just so admirable in a person.
Princess Diana was an interesting example because she dealt with her own self-doubt and demons, as we know, and difficulties, insecurities, really, as the wife of, at the time, Prince Charles. There was a lot of issues in the marriage. There were a lot of issues having to live to much higher standards than we're all used to. And I think a lot of what she did by becoming the princess of the people helped her as well as the people. She felt she could create something that was purposeful, but also gave her a sense of purpose because she was like living in a very isolated situation. You would think she wasn't, but she was. So it's an interesting example because really what you're doing with Origami and Good is helping people that maybe they don't have a sense of joy, or they feel isolated, or they don't have a purpose. And a simple thing like creating something and giving it to someone else and connecting can help with that. It's an interesting example. And Greta Gerwig was amazing. I think she like I don't know, she was somewhere fighting with, I don't know, she was somewhere in the world and they were like pirates invaded her boat or something. I'm like, oh my God, she's like a hero. Great examples, both great examples of very different people from different backgrounds. And I think that's important here because with the Barron Prize, you don't have to, your background doesn't matter. Your background doesn't matter. It's what your purpose is and what you're doing. So how did you each learn about the Barron Prize? I'm curious. Was there a winner that inspired you? Did you hear about it? Vivian, I'll start with you.
I learned about the Barron Prize through a past winner, Esther Bonney, and she talked to me about the Barron Prize because I was like talking to her about her nonprofit organization or her organization, Nature Natives. And she told me about the Barron Prize and she's like, this is like a really good prize. And I believe that your organization like suits it really well. And so she's actually who inspired me to apply. And then after that, I did a lot of research about the Barron Prize. And obviously I read through a bunch of like the winner bios and stuff. And after reading through, I was like, there's no way I'm going to win. And after applying and getting the call, the fact that I was a Barron Prize recipient was just so crazy.
Did you have to go and do an interview or anything, or you just submit a packet?
I didn't have to go through an interview.
Okay.
Yeah, I just submitted.
It's interesting. I'm trying to enter my own podcast, and I have like, oh, I'm never going to win. Why bother? So as I think you said, you got to do it. And one of you said you got to just get out and do it. You can't just say, oh no, I can't do it. If you don't try, you don't have an option. You don't have a chance. So get out there and enter that contest or those awards or submit it in. There's extra work to do it, but just do it. I'm talking to myself as well as everybody else. Anisha, how did you learn about the Barron Prize? Did you learn it from a winner, reading about it? Tell me your journey into becoming a Barron Prize winner.
Yeah, so the way that I learned about the Barron Prize was really similar to Vivian's way of learning about it. I learned about it through past winners as well.
Mm-hmm.
People from my school have won the Barron Prize alongside like someone I went to the 3M Young Scientist Challenge, like he won as well, Heyman Beckley. So I kind of learned about it through them. And I also read through all the bios and I was like, there's no way I'm going to win either. It was really similar to like Vivian. But I did end up winning and that was super surprising. I was super happy. I'm still super grateful. And yeah, I definitely recommend applying to it because you never know, like, yeah, you just never know. So like definitely like taking that step to actually like apply and stuff, like it could really make a difference.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it takes time, but just set aside the time. So since winning the Barron Prize, which is the 2025 prize, it was fairly recent because I think it was announced toward the last part of 2025. What has happened in your life? How has your life changed, or how do you see it changing, or what was something that happened? Anisha, I'll start with you.
A way that it's changed, like my project has definitely received a lot more recognition than it has like before. Like everyone who's reaching out and like learning about my project, I feel like it's making a bigger impact than it did before winning the Barron Prize. So I think that's been a huge thing, along with like using the actual grant and like making my project even bigger than it was, like getting the products to like people who actually need it, like growing my nonprofit initiative as well, and going to more schools and stuff like that, getting the resources for the kids at different schools. Like a lot has definitely changed and in a really good way. Yeah.
That's great. What about you, Vivian?
For me, ever since I won the Barron Prize, the money has been really helpful for like funding our more underserved chapters and allowing them to hold more workshops and stuff like that. And then also the Barron Prize as well. It's allowed me to meet other Barron Prize winners like Anisha, and they have reached out to for partnerships and stuff like that. So I think that's super cool, like the Barron Prize network as well. And since the Barron Prize, I've also gotten an article written on Scholastic magazines, which is super full circle for me because I've been reading Scholastic ever since I was very little, and I remember going to the Scholastic book fairs and stuff like that. So I think that has been very cool as well.
That's so fantastic. I think you both are great examples of hope in a time when a lot of people are losing hope. And I think our message from you to me to everybody is, you got to get out there. And if you have an idea, act on it. Don't say it'll never happen. Don't talk yourself out of not taking action, whether it's advocacy, starting a project, changing jobs, just applying for a Barron Prize. Just do it. Because if you don't, inaction doesn't do anything. And even if you're rejected, at least you tried. And it builds confidence. And I'm sure that the Barron Prize was named after Gloria Barron, who was a child. She wrote children's books. As an author myself, you get a lot of rejection. So she probably faced rejection. I mean, everybody is going to face it. You fail forward. If you fail, if a project fails, you fail forward and take it and learn from your mistakes and go on. The key is to do it. And I think you both are examples of young women with a great future who are doing amazing things now. And I think that you can do that at any age and stage of your life. Again, we have been talking with two of the 2025 Gloria Barron Prize award winners for Young Heroes. They've each won $10,000 to put against, invest in their projects or their future education. I'm going to sum up the show. It's barronprize.org. I'm going to sum up the show with a really great quote from T.A. Barron, whose mother was Gloria Barron, and how he has perpetuated and continues her legacy by doing good. He says, "Nothing is more inspiring than stories about heroic people who have truly made a difference to the world. And we need our heroes today now more than ever. Not celebrities, but heroes, real people whose character can inspire us all. That is the purpose of the Barron Prize, to shine and spotlight these amazing people so their stories will inspire others." I really hope that your stories, Vivian and Anisha, will inspire anyone listening. There may be someone today, and I was thinking about this about the show. I don't, who's listening, who's watching right now. It's a live show. I don't know, but this show continues on over 65 podcast channels and permanently on YouTube and those channels. There may be someone who is going to listen to the show or watch it. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're having some self-doubt. Maybe they're just not sure what they're going to do next. Maybe they saw the news. Maybe, just maybe, they're going to hear your stories and watch this show and say, I have hope. I'm going to get back up and I'm going to go forward and do something. Because that's really what it's about, right? And I think that's the message of this show. That's the message of you. That's the message of the Barron Prize. And it can be done at any age. You're never too old. You're never too young. You're never too uneducated. I mean, Anisha, you taught yourself coding. I mean, your grandmother taught you. I mean, everyone has a gift and everyone has potential. You just have to reach deep down and believe in yourself. And as I always like to say, I created this show for that reason, because it helps me also remember that you can be fearless and fabulous, even if you have a bad day. But I want everybody to have a good day by watching this show and listening to these amazing people and checking out the other stories on barronprize.org of amazing young people who are doing things to inspire others and make a difference in the world. And if you're thinking about that today, I want to end this show with my message, which I always say, is that you have the capacity in life to live any way you want. Always choose to live life on your terms and not by the standards other people set for you that may or may not be to your best interest. Always act upon the good and realize that you can define and redefine yourself over the years. And when you do choose to live life on your terms, always choose to be fearless and fabulous. Thank you. And thank you, ladies.